AA Best Bail Bonds big game coverage live from Miami.
It's the Blitz here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio, 94.5 FM on the go at ESPNSA.com. Your AA Best Bail Bonds radio road coverage carries on with one of our favorite guys, Robert Turbin, joining us here on the ESPN.
Hey.
How's your day going?
Man, wonderful.
How long have you been in town?
I got here yesterday, really Wednesday night. And, been here since then, been running and gunning since.
Man.
Not very much sleep, but that's okay.
That's what we got in Sunday, and it's the same thing. Not a whole lot of sleep.
Right.
Whole lot of work, whole lot of party, and it's Super Bowl Radio Row.
Yeah. Well, a whole lot of working and networking for me. I've been blessed with the opportunity to do some things through the NFL, NFLPA. They've got these events and things like that, some career stuff for us players that they've got going on here in Miami. So I've been able to be a part of those things as I look into some options for whenever my career's over.
What is the NFLPA doing with the, you say career stuff, what does that mean?
Yeah, so they have a career fair where executives from, various companies around the world are there, and, some people get hired on the spot. You submit your resume, and you can do an interview there and say, hey, we'll take you. It's a good opportunity.
What are the opportunities? What are the jobs that they're promoting?
It's like
is it all over the place?
Yeah,
Like
Google and Amazon and
wonderful.
A bunch of different companies, man. It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Robert Turbin here on ESPN San Antonio, longtime running back in the NFL. My wife is from Seattle, so we'll watch you out there. But didn't you have a star on your helmet?
I did. I was in Dallas for a little bit.
Yeah. With everything that we're Cowboy centric, obviously, in San Antonio, and I always find it interesting for guys that played in multiple organizations to go inside the Star. And what was that experience like?
Well, it was so different. From the outside looking in, you see the Cowboys one way, but then when you're in the building, it's like, wow, you have this amazing organization, and you have this owner who's just, he's just so passionate about football, and he's passionate about the players.
Yes.
I came in, I want to say it was like week 12 of the season, when I signed to Dallas. Maybe it was week 13, and Jerry could tell me everything about myself. He's like, hey. I introduced myself. I told him, I said, it's an honor to be able to play for you. He's like, I know you. I know all about you. He starts, naming these things, and I'm standing there like, wow, this guy, he really cares, So it was a tremendous opportunity.
Now, just out of curiosity, was it all the stuff from your Wikipedia page, or did he have other info? Does he go to the Wikipedia page, or does he?
No, he had other info, other insight, real insight.
Okay. He was right.
I was
taking
back.
He did his
he did his homework.
Yeah,
man. He did his homework. Not a lot of owners are into it like that.
But he's also technically general manager.
Right.
We all know Will
true.
McClay does all that, but that I think tells me about the GMing part of his job, that it's more than just a title.
Absolutely. Yeah. He has to scout. He has to study the players. He's got to know, who he's signing and engaging with, and essentially, investing in. And so, he does a remarkable job.
Robert Turbin joining us here on the Blitz. Robert, the post-playing career, you piqued my interest in what the NFLPA is doing. And when I thought of NFLPA, I started looking at the potential, the work stoppage that we're starting to hear a little bit from DeMar Smith, that there might be something down the road.
Mm-hmm.
When you were playing, was that something in the back of your mind? I know that there was one contract that was signed. Am I correct, while you were playing, or was there two NFL player agreements?
Just one.
Just the one.
Just one CBA,
As you were getting closer to that CBA, did you start thinking this might not be a good idea to spend this kind of money? And when you hear your union rep start talking about it could be 2 years, what would that have done to you as a player then?
Well, I will tell you this. The stoppage was actually a year before I was drafted, so I actually never had to go through it. But we talk about it a lot.
Do you?
And we talk about the one coming up, and I'm still playing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Still current player.
Sorry. Yes.
But and it's like, hey, it's not only about saving your money. It's being smart with it and not spending it on obviously unnecessary things. I think when it comes to budgeting, I think listen, if you're able to be disciplined on yourself, saying like, okay, I'm only going to spend this amount of money per month, if that.
Right.
think you're good.
Because you have to spend most of the year without a check. You get 16 of those things, and then you have to be accustomed to budgeting.
Yeah, exactly. And so essentially, you like what I do is like I essentially like I pay myself. But I don't do it every 2 weeks like a job would. I just do it monthly. It's like, okay, and I'm not even allowed to dive into anything extra unless there's an emergency, like a death in the family or something like that or whatever. And so, but other than that, like, you stay disciplined on that, and it's really helped me stay on track.
When you think about your seam discipline there, do most of the guys in the NFL, when they hear the talk, does it scare the crap out of them, or are they still spend and go, no, this won't happen?
Both. I think you get a mixture of both. Right, you have a multitude of personalities around the league, so some guys are gonna be like, well, some guys have enough money, they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
They're like, well, whatever.
But that's such a feat. When you think about collectively, there's probably 8 to 10 guys on every team that never have to worry about money, and their grandkids don't have to worry about money. Then you got about 20 that are set. And then you got the rest of them that if they're not careful, they'll be broke in 5 years after they're done playing.
Right, you're absolutely right. It's going to be a struggle. And those are the guys that really have to be disciplined. And a lot of times it's hard because you want to do what you see, if that makes sense.
We're very aware,
you know what I mean? Like as a young player, even sometimes as a veteran, like you may not have it, but you want to feel, as if you do because that's what you're surrounded by. In the locker room.
It's crazy as you say that. I think about, and then it's unfortunate because he's in jail now, but Sam Hurd is a kid from San Antonio, was a wide receiver with the Cowboys. And, he signed a pretty decent contract, a couple $1 million, but he was hanging out with the Roy Williams and the Marion Barbers. And I remember he told me one time, he was like, yeah, but I'm still the poor guy in the group. Mm-hmm. And I never thought about it. In that way, but if you're hanging out with the guys that are making, 10, 12 million, and you're only making 2, you still feel like the poor guy in the group.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, like, what do you say? Don't befriend somebody who's making more money than you. It's like. But
it's the competition to keep up with them.
Yeah, exactly, and it gets tough, and that's where your discipline really has to kick in.
So tell me about the season. It was. Great run. I mean, you guys were in more great football games this year than I think any other team, and it was a force of will for you guys to win a lot of those, and certainly Russell had a lot to do with it. But when we saw the season play through and then the Green Bay game, are you guys teetering, or are you still heading up?
Oh, man, we're definitely heading up.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And the loss to Green Bay only makes us better.
Yeah.
It only improves us. It only makes us tighter as a team, gel even more. It reminds me and a lot of guys really of when we lost to Atlanta 2012 in that divisional round. And that one was even worse because we were up.
Right.
We were in the game, And they scored with 30 seconds left in the game to win the game. It's like, man, how do we let this one slip? And we just devoted ourselves to the next year. We came back and we were stronger from that experience. And we really devoted ourselves to one another and to that season. And we went on to win a title.
How's your body?
My body's great.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, listen, I had 355 career carries. Not a lot, and unfortunately, the last 3 seasons, I mean, 2017 and 18, I went down with an injuries and missed the rest of the season. And do I need to stop talking?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, 2017 and 18, go down with injuries, and then obviously I was out most of the year in 2019, and got an amazing opportunity to go back to Seattle, but not a lot of wear and tear, because of that. So, I mean, obviously nobody wants to get hurt. It's unfortunate, but fortunate at the same time for me at this stage, not having that wear and tear.
Playing in Seattle, you get San Francisco a couple times. That team this year, when they were 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, I still didn't know how good they were, even though they were undefeated.
Right.
And now they're playing in the Super Bowl. What is that team like?
I think they have great leadership. I think that's the difference. I think that's what keeps them together. I think that's what keeps them disciplined. I mean, they're a young team, but they have enough veterans on that team that have been in some of these games, and they acquired even some over the course of the season, like Emmanuel Sanders,
Yes.
for example, to even bring more leadership and experience, especially when it comes to the playoff games and stuff like that. And obviously Sherman's on the defense, and I think for me he's really the X factor as it pertains to leadership, not necessarily on the field.
Right.
We know what he's going to do. He's going to guard, he's going to make plays, he's going to be disciplined, he's going to do his thing. But he's also the guy, in my opinion, that not only gels the defense together but the entire team, because he knows what to say. He's been there before. And he just has that experience.
Is it good to have a guy like Richard Sherman in the locker room? Not because of the leadership, that's a very apparent thing that he does, but because he's such a lightning rod. Sometimes he takes some of that pressure off other guys, because the media and the press are going to gravitate to the guy that's going to make the statement, where maybe they would be focused other ways. Is that part of being the leader? He will give it and he will take it with everything that goes on, and he can kind of protect the guys behind him.
Yeah, 100%. He wants to put the weight on his shoulders, and he wants to be able to, gather the troops and be the guy that people can look up to and follow. I think it drives him, it motivates him, and it's part of what makes him such a great player. What's up, Locke?
The radio.
That's Locke right there, man. That's my boy, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's my boy, Lockett.
As fast as anybody.
Yes,
were,
sir. Rocket.
Look at what now.
What's up, Rocket?
Now wait a minute. Now, look at all that. Look at that.
Okay.
Right. Show that up for our Facebook Live, man.
I see you.
Yeah.
I see you, Rocket.
Uh-huh.
See, I left mine at home. You know why? You know why? Because I'm humble. What you doing?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? What you doing?
We're having a great conversation until you showed up with your ring.
Yeah. You left.
That's my guy, man. I love Rocket.
This is the one place you're supposed to wear
gold on
I know. Actually, my partner, he was like, "You forgot your ring," and I said, "Man, I'm just not. You're not used to wearing something."
Forgot your
Where do you keep
ring.
I forgot it. I keep it in the case in my office.
In your office?
Yeah.
And
right
is it obviously you don't wear it a whole lot?
I've never worn it.
Yeah.
I've never worn it. I only wore it when I got it at the the ring party or whatever where we got it, and that's it.
Super Bowl.
Next time I'm wearing it.
Now here's something that Michael Irvin used to tell us. He's like, when you get one ring, you wear it so everybody knows you got a ring. When you got three of them, everybody knows you don't have to wear them anymore.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Respect.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it
Plus,
comes down to.
I feel like it'd be hard to do stuff. Like I imagine
Dude,
Tom wearing all 5 rings. It's like you can't even hold. You can't even eat.
Tom, 6.
You know,
he's got him on the other hand.
I know he's got one on
he's
the other
everywhere. I
finger,
mean,
too.
it looked like that guy just.
Don't remind me.
Is he?
One of those is supposed to be ours, but we're not gonna talk about it.
Well, one play call can make a world of difference, can it?
Yeah.
Robert Turbin, the pride of Irvington High, joining us here on
Hey,
ESPN.
shout out Irvington High School. I see you. I love that. Absolutely. I love Irvington.
And you're doing a podcast.
Yes, let's talk about what you're doing now.
Oh yeah. So I'm starting my podcast. I partner with Believe podcast, and they're based out of LA, and I did a radio show for 2 years in Seattle.
You can tell.
And I also did I was a co-host for Sports Locker in Indianapolis. After the game, we'd recap the game and other sports around the league. But I just like engaging with the fans. I like talking about stuff, sports mainly, and the different nuances that go into sports. And I want to learn,
right.
Especially about sports that I'm unfamiliar with, and then I want to also be able to give knowledge on what I do know. Share my opinions. I mean, I love basketball, and baseball is a favorite of mine as well. And so, our first episode actually, I was thinking, I was like, what do I want my first episode to be? Okay, we're gonna talk about sports. Okay, before we even talk about sports, what is a sport? That's gonna be the first topic. Is what is the true definition of sport?
It is an endeavor.
Right?
You don't have to sweat to be in a sport.
Well. That's true.
And there doesn't always have to be a cheerleader or have to be a scoreboard because, cheerleading is a sport. Or is it? See, you didn't think of it.
I think that's an endeavor.
Well, but
it's a competition.
There you go. There's a difference between a sport and a competition.
And I'll tell you
that's
why.
the dividing
All
line.
right.
Sport is defined, obviously, you have to have some sort of athletic movement going on, okay, and competition, okay, but at the end of the day, the end result has to be controlled by you have to be able to control your own destiny.
Okay.
So cheerleading, right? What happens? You do your routine. At the end, there's 3 judges,
Uh-huh.
right? And we get to give our opinion on how they did. How was the flip? How was the whatever, the cartwheel or the spin or whatever? And obviously there are little
But
tidbits.
when there's judges, I mean, because that's where you're going with that. Because then you gotta get like figures, like all the Olympic sports,
Right.
like figure skating
It's
and
not a sport,
and
technically.
It's an endeavor.
an
sorry.
endeavor.
It's a competition. Listen, at the end of the day, like
So bowling's a sport.
the winner and loser is decided by the judgment of somebody else. And no matter what, like they say, well, they're they talk about gymnastics, like, well, they're scoring and
Right.
this and that. But still, like, even if you like, I can say I think she landed it was a 10, and you can say, well, I think it was
so.
a 9.
She didn't point her toes. I'm dropping 2
And
points
that's
off.
going to be the deciding factor of whether they win or lose.
And I think
not a sport.
you'll get a lot of
Interesting.
pushback
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
but
good topic.
You
That's
can
okay.
be
I'm ready.
remarkably athletic and not
Right.
be in a sport.
Right.
And
I'm
you
sorry.
can also be remarkably
saying it's not
unathletic
hard.
and be in a sport.
I'm not saying it's not hard. Doesn't take hard work.
Sure.
It doesn't take
No,
like
no.
athleticism. I can't flip. I can't do any of that. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, defined as a sport, it's not.
That's a taste of the podcast. Robert
Yeah,
Turbin's
little
going to be
taste.
off in your
Uh-huh.
on Believe
Awesome.
Little
Network.
taste for y'all.
Go to Believe.com. You can see it everywhere. Also, you can find it on wherever you find all your podcasts.
Yes,
Check
yes.
it out. If you're a
My
Seahawks
YouTube
fan,
channel as well, Robert J. Turbin.
on
Yes.
the YouTube channel as well. Follow you on Twitter. Make sure everybody's aware of what's going on. You got skill, man. It's gonna take off for you.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Awesome,
Thanks for having
Thanks
me,
for
guys.
coming by.
That was cool.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir.